Hello everyone! Today I am taking you to Castle and Fortress Spielberg. So this will be exciting, and now we are going up the hill. Can you see the cannons? One is right there and the other one is right here. And through these gates we will be entering Castle Špilberk. So beautiful. You can see this castle from all around Brno because it's on the top of the hill. Going to the courtyard. I am here with Mrs. Maud, and she will now take us on a tour of this amazing castle, and she knows so much about the history, so I will let her speak about this amazing place so everyone can visit.
So, this is the second courtyard of Spilberg Castle, and its history dates back to the first half of the 13th century, when it was decided that the castle would become a seat of the Moravian margraves. However, later it became a seat of the military garrison, and later it became the place of the worst prison in the whole Habsburg monarchy. So this is what I'm going to show you now.
So now we will be entering into the prison of Spielberg. And here is the entrance.
Well, now we're entering the worst prison in the whole Habsburg monarchy. This part of the prison was opened in 1784 and it was used until 1836. The word casemates comes from Italian. Casamata means dark house, and you're now seeing a typical casement corridor as it was during the times of the military fortress, because that's the original purpose for which the casements were built. These corridors are 109 meters long, and the total length of the casements is over 600 meters. And these corridors were used as shelter for the soldiers and also as storage for gunpowder.
A guard guarding the prison.
However, the Spielberg's prisoners have never been through anything like this, because they were brought here for the first time 6 years and a half before torture was abolished, and of course torture was never used as punishment. The prison life was very hard. It is said that every third or fourth prisoner died here because of the conditions. The prisoners were kept in cells like this. For example, this is a cell for 29 of them, and they were chained all night together. So this is the prison kitchen, and now we're going to talk about the menu. Most prisoners used to get only bread and water every day, and that was all for those who just cleaned for the soldiers at the fortress. They just didn't work hard. But those who used to go to hard labor, for example to a quarry, they used to get the prison gruel. So it was something between a soup, porridge. It was prepared in those large pots on the left side, and themselves prisoners were assigned to the kitchen to work here just as a reward. We know that the prisoners were starving here according to the complaints of the prison doctor, and also they were suffering from scurvy, the so-called sailor's disease caused by the long-term lack of the vitamin C. So after some of the prisoners died here, the prison doctor decided to gift them sauerkraut. So he started to buy cabbage, and that was the prevention and a medicine in one. For 5.5 years, since 1784, these Josephian cells were used instead of a capital punishment. The prisoners used to be shackled by their ankles, waist, neck and wrist. It actually depended on the court how many shackles and how many chains will chain them to the prison bar. There could be up to 5 chains, each of them was 10 kilos heavy, and these prisoners were literally left to rot in a cell like this.
And these are for murderers.
Yes, those were people like serial killers, people convicted of violent crimes. In 1939, the castle became the headquarters of Hitler's army, the Wehrmacht, and actually the army installed itself in the upper part, and they also installed the provisional prison of Gestapo there. Casements were still used as tourist site. However, after the heavy bombardment in August of 1944, it was decided that these corridors will be converted into an air raid shelter for the highest officers. And although the construction was really hasty, the Nazis didn't have time to finish it. This is the unfinished telephone exchange by the brand Siemens und Halske. It was supposed to have 60 lines connecting the castle to the whole protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. However, it could never be assembled because the other parts never arrived to Brno. But it's quite an advanced technology, according to military experts. This is the former municipal prison building, which was here since 1742, and it was also a home of the most famous, or let's say infamous, Špilberk's prisoner Francis Baron Trenck, who spent 3 years of his life imprisonment here on the second floor of this building. His conditions were quite different. He had shackles as anybody else, but he had a butler here interned with him who could go to the city, buy any food he wanted, cook from it. Of course, then Baron could invite the prison's director, with whom he shared the floor, for dinner, and of course they played cards all day long. So here we are standing in front of the oldest part of the Spielberg castle. This is the eastern wing, and actually it formed the part of the original castle when it was founded around the half of the 13th century by the Czech king Přemysl Otakar II. And it was meant to be a decent seat of the Moravian margraves. This post was reserved to the heir to the throne, and that's why also the young King Charles IV, the most famous king in the Bohemian lands, resided here. And after the death of Joseph Luxembourg, actually the castle is taken over by the army, and it stays such until the 20th century.
Amazing door.
So this is what the castle looked like in 1645, when there came 30,000 Swedish soldiers, besieged the city for 3.5 months and wanted to conquer that. However, they never made it.
We're actually at the place that is not for tourists, so I wanted to take you to show you what you normally don't get to see, which is a very special place.
So this is the tip of the Bastion, which actually saved the city in 1645. The greatest attack came on the 15th of August. The Swedish soldiers managed to blow up all the fortification, and they managed to blow up this tip and get into the fortification. But there were the Sushi's men, and they shot them. So those who survived crawled out, saying that this fortress can't be conquered. This event made the General Torstensson decide to give up, to try to conquer the fortress and end all the fighting.
So this is all that got blown out by Swedish.
So this is one of the short corridors that served for listening if anybody was trying to dig a hole into the fortification and blow it out. These are the so-called ekut. They could have from 3 to 5 meters, and there was usually a bucket of water, and the soldiers used to go to watch if the water was trembling. So these are the remains of the original Transversal Gallery. This gallery was all around the Bastion, and it had about 75 meters in length. And that's where the soldiers walked and they performed their duties. These are the remains of the transversal barrier, probably, that stopped the Swedish from entering the Bastion and from conquering the city. After the 3-month siege, General Torstensson was very tired, and that's also related to the most famous legend told about Brno, that he himself decided that if he wouldn't take the castle by 12 at noon of the 15th of August 1645, the army would withdraw. Actually, when the army was drinking in their encampment in Gruel, they made this public because they were so drunk. One monk who was pouring wine into their chalices heard that. He decided to get into the city using the system of secret corridors, which we conserve until nowadays, and he climbed up the Petrov steeple and he made the bells ring the earliest possible, at 11 o'clock. So the army thought the battle was over and withdrew, and that made the Brno citizens win in the very last moment. He made the bells ring 12 times at 11 o'clock, and that made the Swedish army think that the battle was over, and they withdrew, and the commanders couldn't do anything about that.